similar to what you guys have said, you posted something on LinkedIn a while ago about all your rejection letters from sponsorship. And I'm not an international student, but I just think that that was really brave of you to post that. And I think that, I know I've talked about it with some people at this table, but it meant a lot to see you now and sharing that vulnerability. I think it's really inspiring for some of us. So I would love to hear like what got you through that and how you pushed through and persevered to where you are today.
Thank you. I think that, maybe I can start by sharing just the importance of being resilient. And on the other hand, understanding, creating a strategy for you to grow as well. Because, culturally, I'm Asian, and in Asian culture, it's all about, all about like, just focus on working hard and, putting the work, all that. So keep doing that because working hard is still important. But I do strongly believe that the reason why I'm here still is, aside from working very hard, it's also because I do things strategically as well. And on top of that, there's a component of just being lucky. And sometimes you just need to be very honest with yourself that, anything that you do, just know that you do your best and you have every reason to be proud of yourself. Because some people are luckier than others, but I'm also very spiritual in a way, like you don't lose anything. I always think that when you feel unlucky in some situation, something lucky is going to come to you. It's just not a transaction. So having that mindset is very helpful for me, and understanding that the difference you're seeing about yourself now. And I think that Raquel and I actually kind of talked a little bit about that during the competition when we say that, when I told you, if you remember, that like when you feel like you're different, it's actually your strength.
Yeah.
If your uniqueness is what going to become your power. We're going to talk about negotiation as well. But it was so hard for me when I came here as an international student. But I was pretty naive, to be honest. I didn't let all of that, drag me down. I know that it was hard, but my focus has always been to move forward and not looking backward. I only reflect on what has happened because, of course, I got a lot of rejections. But I do feel grateful for every rejection that I have, honestly, because after I got rejected, I always follow up with a thank you. And you know what's crazy for me to know now is, and also I'm a hiring manager now when I interview people, I am so shocked to know that probably out of 10 people I interview, one of them returned a thank you note. It was shocking to me because during my time, we all know that if you go to an interview, you should follow up with a thank you note. And I never thought that it would be something I had to tell people. But I last week I also taught a class at Place, and I had to also tell them the same thing. You need to send a thank you note. This is the kind of thing that I think it's as crazy as it sounds, but if you do carry gratitude with you in everything that you do, you're already in the 10%. A lot of people take things for granted, and I see a lot of entitlement, especially. I also still consider myself as a younger generation, but there are a lot of entitlement that I'm seeing becoming more and more prominent in the younger generation when you have so many opportunities. And what's tricky about having a lot of opportunities, similar to how you have dating apps nowadays, how you have a lot of social media, so many followers, all that, all these options, it looks great. But what I care about is what actually meaningful. And I think that it's definitely one of the things that helped me get to where I am today, because I never take anything for granted. I always double pay people who help me. Even if they don't help me get a job, like the reason why I got a job is because I applied on LinkedIn, no one helped me get a job. It was a very lonely process. But I do believe that because I'm always grateful, that energy shows to whoever that I meet. And I never go to an interview thinking that I'm desperate for a job. Because when you are desperate for a job, people will sense that. And here's the truth. No one is going to offer you a job because they feel like they have to save you. No one, me included. I will never hire someone because I feel like I need to save this person, because guess what? A lot of people come to me for help. If I have one job opening, and if, 100 people need me to provide that opportunity for them, that's not how it works, And as much as I have empathy for people, when it comes to business, you always want to hire the best people for the role. And if you come with that mindset, if you know your value, so it go back to self-awareness. So a lot of that is internal work to go deep within yourself, but also look outward and understand, who your role models are, because it's going to tell you a lot about who you aspire to become. So when you understand yourself, when you understand your value, when you know other people, for example, you guys did the event and people say oh, great job, understand that that's your strength. And for some of you guys who, you might not be as extroverted, but you know that a lot of people tell you that, I really like just talking to you, because after talking to you, I feel better about myself. That's also your strength. So I always come to the interview knowing myself, and I think that at the same time, I kind of have to work for it, but I never come with the energy that please give me a job. That's number one. That's rule number one. Never come to any interview and making them feel I'm desperate for this job, please give it to me. You will come with the energy knowing that even with your international background, that's your strength. That's the value you're adding to American companies when they are talking about D&I, when they are talking about diversity and equity, inclusion, all that play to your strength. Obviously, this means saying that it also depends on luck. Obviously, this is a tricky time. The economy is unstable. A lot of companies have hiring freeze. So you need to be realistic with yourself as well. And at the same time, when I reflect back to my time when I applied for a job, a lot of people actually advise me, first of all, if you want a job here, do not study marketing because you will never be able to find a job that will sponsor you. So I did not take that advice. I did not take that advice. And I believe that, I didn't know if I would be able to stay, but I know that what I know about myself, that I cannot lose something that I have zero interest in, even if that job gives me tons of money. So I couldn't study finance because of that. Because I could study finance, but I would just feel so bored. So I stick with what I find joy in, which is important. And when I go apply for jobs, I do think very realistically for myself. I think about 10 different scenarios. Okay, number one, if I find a job here, stay, great, nothing to worry about. Number two, if I cannot find a job now, what's my plan? At that time, as an international student, some of my plan was to, do I consider studying for a few more years, trying to stay, and hopefully during that time I can find a job. That's one plan. Another plan is, am I willing to maybe go to Canada for a year and then maybe potentially come back? Some people do that as well. Another plan is, should I get married to get a green card? Okay, cross that out. That's not on the list. Just being transparent. Another thing that I have in mind is, should I come back home? Like, even if I don't find anything, and if I go home, do I want to come back? And what is the plan for me to come back? So when I think through all these plans in my head, it allows me to come to peace with whatever the worst scenario is. And I still work towards my goal, which is to find a job in the US. But that allows, what it helps me is what people don't see. But it's very clear to me that I don't come to an interview feeling desperate. I don't feel like anyone needs to save me because I already saved myself thinking through all the worst scenarios. And I'm okay with the worst scenario. So you need to come to peace with yourself. Because even though it sounds like counterintuitive, you prepare for the worst scenario, but that's actually going to help you to get closest to the best scenario. So the mindset is the most important thing.
Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Yes.
About playing to your strengths,
Yes.
right? So I think we all think that being an international student is a strength when you come into an interview, right? You're bringing a different point of view that the company should want, right? A global awareness.
Yeah.
How do you position that, like practically speaking? How do you present yourself as this is, you're not desperate, this is the opposite of desperate. This is your lucky day, I know what I'm doing and I have knowledge of this background in this area. You're right.
Yeah, I think number one, to be practical first is that, when you apply for a job, there are companies that just they are just gonna straight say no to you, that we cannot hire an international student right now. And be okay with that and don't let that make you question your self-worth. So that's number one. Number two is, for example, in my case, when I got my first full-time job offer, New York Magazine, I was actually still in school. Like I haven't graduated yet, but I applied early. And I applied for a full-time job when I wasn't even allowed to work full-time because I was in school and international student can only work part-time. But when I came, I had already built my experience, So aside from my background, when they look at my resume, I actually have a track record of all my internships I have done at ad agency and ad tech and in the media ecosystem, which is convincing. So I think that another part of that is to build your experience, to take every opportunity you have to, a lot of people want work-life balance, but I always think that it's such a deceiving term because I think that work is part of life and especially when you're young, if you aim for work-life balance, you shouldn't complain about not having enough opportunity, because there are always trade-offs. Ideally, I'd like to be doing something in the future where, I feel like I never have to work a day because everything that I'm doing, I'm just really looking forward to it. But you have to start from somewhere. And I think what social media, the downside of social media is sometimes you see people being successful and you question yourself, why am I not there? What you don't see is what got them there. And that's why, and we can, talk more about some of the things I'm doing as well. Hopefully it can be inspiring for you guys, but that's why I want to be honest in sharing with you guys about my journey. Because what you guys see me now, obviously I am a lot more secured than when I was at your age looking for jobs. I was not like where I am today. But all of the things that I'm telling you guys is the micro success ingredients to help you get there.